Welcome to Compression, the quest to $100 million in just 1 year. Join me, your host, Logan Freeman, in this one-of-a-kind interactive podcast experience where I am on a quest to compress 3 years of achievement and production into 12 months. And no, the answer is not to just work harder. I'm bringing you not only ideas and concepts that are complete at the theoretical level, but they're also effective at the applied level. Look, guys, knowledge is not power. It is potential power. Knowledge plus massive strategic action equals power. We're talking about strategy, systems, accountability, all in real time. This is Compression. We're here.
On the way.
We should have kept T on so the listeners and the viewers were able to see my beautiful wife, but she's got a big smile on her face, which makes me have a big smile on. And welcome back to another episode of the Compression Podcast. 31.8 million. So we're another 3 million above where we were last week. So the traction is happening. The momentum has been building and it's continuing to flourish. So very excited about that. This week, setting the intention, you're going to hear about how I've had to kind of slow down just a little bit this week and got a lot of a perspective shift on a few different fronts. But we'll talk about that this week. We'll talk about how to do more in less time and how I'm figuring that out. We're going to grill Jerome on a new podcast idea that I have for FTW investments. We're going to talk about wins, losses, and some really cool lessons learned from some books and some people that I have been studying a lot. And we might get into breaking down a new idea of how I approach going to learn a new topic, a new subject, becoming efficient in speaking, but you have to understand how to break a topic down. And then obviously, what do you actually go study? And this is going to be, the topic is on economics. And so I've been studying a lot about that, but we might touch on that a lot. We got some great things here for you guys this week, but I just want you to hear 31.8 million. Am I behind? Yes, I am behind, but I do know that in the coming weeks, we will be catching up. So stay tuned for that. Got some really big closings. The largest closing of my brokerage career happened. And we are going to be talking about that as well. Very interesting deal and how I resurrected the deal. And I think you guys will have a lot of fun hearing that story. So the intentionality this week is all about slowing down. And a part of that is what we've talked about in the past, understanding what those high value tasks are. Okay. So I revisited the mastering your schedule from Perry Marshall, the mental model of $10 tasks, $100 tasks, $1,000 and $10,000 tasks. And I'm not quite to the $10,000 tasks. And this is an hour, by the way. So 10,000 an hour, but I completed 3 or 4 $4,000 to $5,000 hour tasks this week. And I've been making mental notes of this. Also, we're going to talk about how Jerome has been pressing me to revisit and relook at my schedule. And so I have completely delegated any scheduling that needs to happen. And I completely reconfigured Calendly. And when I make the shift from using my Gmail calendar from my current brokerage to FTW, I said, I'm wiping the slate 100% clean. Okay. We're starting from scratch and we're implementing batching and we're going to color code where those profit producing activities are and making sure that that's where I'm spending all of my time. Had a couple podcast recordings earlier this week that and I hope you guys will listen to them. That's not on the Compression Podcast, but if you want to find some new recordings that are be coming out from some new guests, my talk track has changed because I have changed. Okay. So the podcasts are so much better now. I took some time off from recording any podcasts in relation to mindset, my history, my backstory, because I thought it was overdone out there in the market, but it's shifted, it's changed. I've got some new stories, some new threads that I have linked together that are clicking with people. When I see the host on the other side, they're like, whoa, what just happened? And we're breaking these complex ideas down into manageable parts, and people are really grasping these. So really been, working on my communication skills, and I think it's hitting home for a lot of people. But with that being said, Jerome, how you doing this week, man?
Amazing, man. Amazing. Just grateful to be here. And it's funny how things change over the course of a week.
Yep.
You told me a statement and I thought it was interesting is Logan, you spend a lot of money on development. How do you justify it? And I thought to myself, well, is the money important or the time?
Mm.
And then I thought, is buying the stuff important or what you do with what you bought? And, for the folks who are listening, I think they are focused on their development, but I think there is a different level of accountability and engagement when you make some form of a transaction.
Yes.
I think you go from talking to somebody who's your friend and just hanging out, and you expect to get a result from the time that you're spending with the person. And I think that just raises everybody's level of engagement, accountability. And so if you've just been playing with it, right, just kind of dabbling and thinking about it, I'm encouraging you to take that next step to align the allocation of the resource with
Absolutely.
the thing that you say is important.
4 or 5 people this week have said, Logan, I don't know how old you are, but after speaking with you, you are wise beyond your years. And when multiple people that don't know each other and met me for the first time have said that, that is something that I say thank you, obviously, accept the compliment. That's a very nice compliment, but I have to think about why are they saying that? Well, it's because when you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer that's, I've already thought about it because I'm in time with myself thinking about these things already. And so, I asked Jerome this week because I'm on to a new book from Richard Koch, who wrote the 80-20 principle, the STAR principle, all of these other things. He kind of make that Pareto's principle really, really popularized. And he has a new book out called Unreasonable Success. Okay. And the unreasonable success takes 20 people that he's identified from all different disciplines, males, females, older people from our generation and people from a long, long time ago. And he created a roadmap, 9 kind of points on this roadmap that they have all touched on in their life in one way or the other. And the first point on the roadmap is a unwavering self-belief in yourself. And so I texted Jerome earlier this week after reading the first chapter of this book. And I was thinking about, how do you create self-belief and how do you create confidence that is unwavering and maybe in sometimes unwarranted, right? And I read something earlier this week as well. It said, well, if you've never done something before and nobody has told you that you cannot do it, then you will have a confidence that is unfounded, right? And so for me, I think where my self-belief really comes from is nobody really ever told me that I couldn't do something. And I just went on that thread. I just, and we went back and forth on the text messages a little bit here and there. I talked on an earlier podcast this week about making promises to yourself and then keeping them so you respect yourself. I think that's a huge piece of the components there that we're talking about. But this was really interesting to me because, I told Jerome, I need to level up my self-confidence. I need to get on that next level, the compressor level on the confidence. And, one of my business partners has this unwavering confidence, which, works in some scenarios and some it doesn't. But I went back to my top talent, which is individualization. And even if I want to press forward and show that I'm the big confident guy, my chemical makeup, my personality says, hold on, how's that going to be received by that other person? And then I let them kind of find out for myself. So I I was giving myself a hard time saying I need more confidence. What I found out after reflecting on this question that I posed to myself, that, I have that confidence. I go about it a little bit of a different way. And I never want to make somebody feel, repelled from me. Because in a new Finish Strong Friday episode that I just recently recorded, I've got this new idea about being a magnet, being magnetic, and this stems
Marshall
from,
Silver, baby.
yeah, from positioning yourself as a thought leader. So things are coming into your world and you don't always have to go out and grab them. And so it reminded me of Green Lights with Matthew McConaughey, where he's, had his first big hit movie. He was walking on the promenade, go get his tuna fish sandwich one Friday night. Nobody looked at him. 3 people maybe looked at him out of 400. He went back on a Sunday and 397 looked at him and 3 of them didn't. So it's the same idea that you need to be magnetic and you need to be bringing things to you. But, just because one person has or seems like they have this unwavering confidence all of the time, you got to go a little deeper. You got to peel it back just a little bit more and understand your own perspective and your own, your own way that you would kind of feel good about that confidence. I don't want to be a cocky guy. My wife always used to say, you need to be more humble. You got to be more humble, and there's a big line between being cocky and being confident. And that line, I think, is drawn in empathy. And so if you can understand empathy and how to relate to other people, your confidence is going to come off in a better light and be accepted by your other party much more. And I'm all about influence. And so that's where I came to. I haven't got to the second point on the map yet with the book, but I wanted to spend time this week talking about self-belief and confidence. And I want to give you a chance to chime in on that thought too.
Yeah, I think the line early when you're trying to establish yourself in all the muchísimo, it typically happens in high school for a lot of guys, right?
Yep.
You're telling people who you are and how bad you are and all the things you can do. I think the person with confidence just does it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they've been here before. This is what they do. And there's a piece of the ego that starts to enter where you refrain from actually celebrating and enjoying and like acknowledging the fact that this was a thing. You, like me, at times have a hard time receiving kind words, right? It's like, whoa, what do I do with that? And so acknowledging the compliment, you're wise beyond your years, acknowledging that, appreciating that, and then moving forward. Whereas for a lot of folks and a younger you would just kind of gloss over it.
Right.
And to the point with, you were talking about nobody told you that you couldn't. That's the bumblebee situation where, bumblebees are not supposed to be able to fly, but they do. So there's some value to being unconsciously incompetent, but there's a ton of risk there too, because that thing can blow up because you don't know what you need to know in order to be successful in a space. And I always worry when people are running in that space because I think you can slam into a brick wall and, nobody sees it coming. It's like it came out of nowhere, but the people who've been down the road before, the ones who are familiar with that path, they know that curve, and maybe not the brick wall. We'll use a telephone pole in the corner of a country road where all the locals know that pole is there. You better be careful. You better slow down. The signs aren't marked well. But, somebody who's coming in hot and heavy and fast and they don't know the curve is coming and they're right there on that pole, and it happened to them before they even could prepare for it. So, no, I think the confidence and the cocky is going to be something that everybody's going to struggle with. And I'll be honest with you, Logan, there's going to be some people, regardless of how humble or empathetic you are going to say, man, he's cocky and I just can't get with them. Right.
Yep.
And I mean, we think about people like Grant Cardone and some of the other folks who are forward and some would call obnoxious. Gary Vee is another person where like he interviews people and he talks over them. And people are like, is he cocky? Is he arrogant? But then you see other pieces of content and you see him talking about heart and empathy and love and so on and so forth and caring.
Right.
But it doesn't really matter. But I think what's just most important is that we're self-aware.
Yeah.
Right. And we're actively working on it. And we're not making it about us and how great we are.
Yep.
We're making it about whoever we're helping. And I think as long as we do that, we'll be okay.
Absolutely, man. That's a good point. So I mentioned that I had to slow down a little bit this week and had a little bit of a perspective shift, or at least a reminder at the very least, because I attended the first funeral I have been to in a long time. I think maybe the last funeral I was at was one of my uncles that passed away 4, 5, 6 years ago. So this was a young individual. It was out of nowhere, and he was very close to one of our business partners, and I met him on numerous occasions and had talked to him about a lot of different things. And so, seeing his, and this was at Visitation, believe it or not, which is my church. So I've only been married at Visitation. My kids have been baptized at Visitation. So everything that I've ever, had happen at Visitation has been very joyful. And I was actually at Adoration earlier that day. Myself and the good Lord were the only two people in that church. And I knew later that day there was going to be a lot of pain there, a lot of tears. And it was kind of like this weird calm before the storm. And it got me thinking about, what true love actually is. And so I started to go down this rabbit hole of understanding, because I remember writing a few years back, kind of my story on a retreat. We had to get up and give a talk. And, I said that to experience love is to experience pain. You cannot love something without pain. I mean, if you don't really love somebody or something, or let's just use the thread of a person, you're being vulnerable with them. You're giving a part of yourself to them. And if you don't do that, then there will be no availability for pain or for missed expectations or for being hurt. But, pain and love are kind of one and the same a little bit. And that got me thinking a lot, because like I mentioned, I didn't know Sam all that great, but, at that funeral, I saw the pain in his brothers and his sisters and his mom and his friends. And man, oh man, I tell you what, listening to them talk, the tears were just rolling on my face. And it wasn't because I'm going to miss him in particular a lot, but I knew I felt that at a deeper level than I have felt in a long time. And it got me, the perspective shift is, holy cow, the things that we talk about, like cherishing every moment, loving the people around you very, very dearly, keeping them close. It's so, so important, and everything can change just like that. So, it was a big perspective shift. It was a big reminder that life is fickle. It can change very, very quickly. And life is not just a means to an end. So that's what got me slowing down a little bit. That was on Wednesday. And, I had a busy day yesterday, but really been taking some time to be reflective in the mornings and, to really spend time with the people that I love and let them know that I love them. So anyways, we'll move on to a happier topic, but it's something that I wanted to make sure everybody heard that, is listening. Really take a look at and think about the people that are in your life. And if you haven't told somebody that you love them recently, reach out to them and see how they're doing and spend some time with them and let them know how you feel, because you never know if that's going to be the last chance that you get to do that. So one thing that I wanted to chat about too was a big win for me is recalibrating my mornings and looking forward to them, right? And this is going to be a thread. About every 4 or 5 months, you're going to hear me talk about, switching it up, keeping it fresh. Variety is the spice of life, and I want to keep that going so I continue the sustainability. So what did I do? Well, I'm pushed back my mornings till 4 a.m. So it's no longer 3:30, and a lot of times it's 4:30. And as long as I'm beating Jocko Willink up, I'm okay. So we're good to go. But at the end of the day, I found some awesome tools that I want to share with you guys that have really helped me utilize the Savers routine. And so, silence is a big one for me. There's nothing really, the only tool I can give you is get a watch, get a timer, and put 10 minutes on and just sit there in silence and let yourself be before you get started. Affirmations was a big piece too. We talked a lot about affirmations, I believe, last week, so I won't touch on that more, but I started to read my affirmation out loud. If my wife ever wakes up, she's going to hear me reading to myself down here in this room. She's not going to be up anyways, but she's probably like, who the heck is he talking to? I'm talking to myself, talking to that subconscious brain. Meditation. Okay. Some great resources. I've been diving into what Ray Dalio uses, transcendental meditation. I have not jumped on that bandwagon yet because Spotify is my number one productivity tool. I tell you what, man, I absolutely love Spotify. It's slowing down, unfortunately, just like Apple Podcasts is, because they're grabbing all the content, so their servers are not as fast as they used to be. But they have awesome playlists. If you just go to meditation, you can find guided meditations, you can find nature sounds, you can find all of these things that will help you walk through that. I looked at Calm, I looked at Headspace, and I figured I didn't need all of that. I found a Catholic meditation app that I paid for, an annual subscription, which uses the Gospels for me as well. So that works for me. But that piece, breathing deeply, not only, in the mornings, but you'll hear me later, habit stack, right? So I'm trying to implement this one at a time, just like we talk about with atomic habits is, focused on getting it in the mornings, but then throughout the day, my new watch that I treated myself after closing all these deals. I got a Garmin, and I tell you what, it is a level above what I had. So I've got my body battery, I've got my stress levels, I've got my movement activities, I've got my respiration, I've got my breathing per minute, all of these things. And if I'm not hitting what I've set out to do, it reminds me to get up and move. Hey, are you stressed right now? You need to go take some breaths. And so I've been really focused on deep breathing throughout the day. And I'm also going to get into Wim Hof here pretty soon too, somebody that Jerome has put me on to as well. But again, I'm not trying to do it all at once, okay? So I'm just trying to get one piece into that. Visualization, I haven't really jumped into that very much. Exercise. So I get the kids to school, or Taylor takes them in the morning, and I get my exercise in. And if that exercise is just getting 2 miles around the neighborhood, I get my 2 miles around the neighborhood. But it's nice here. It's colder in the mornings, 55 to 65, but that fresh air, that feeling, that sun, the birds, all of it, man. I got my podcast in. Sometimes I don't. I just listen. But that's the exercise piece. Reading. I'm reading 45 to 60 minutes right now. And that's a lot. It's a lot. But I'm absolutely loving it. And I usually pick up Poor Charlie's Almanac. That's what I'm reading right now. I've got a book called How to Talk So Little People Listen. So we've been implementing that with Isabella, which is awesome. Just acknowledge their feelings is the first step. So we're doing that with her. And then I get into some more macroeconomic stuff that I'll talk about at a later date. And then scribing. Obviously, I hit my journals, and then I'm ready to go for the day, get in the shower, ready to roll. Feeling really good about my morning routine. I feel pumped up, energized, and nobody can get a hold of me before 10 a.m. And it's been a big push because Jerome does 5 hours of this stuff a day. I'm trying to get my 2 hours in. But again, guys, I'm building my business around my life. My life around my business. And so I'm very, very excited to say that that's been working. I'm working towards mastering the schedule. Huge wins for me. And I'm very excited about that. So
how are you feeling?
What'd you say?
How are you feeling? How are you feeling with the change?
Man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling intentional, and I'm giving myself grace. And if you guys remember 3-4 months ago, I was stressed to the max, and I said, I got to get a hold of this. I got to get some tools in my toolbox. And this is my tool, is reading. And I remember how much reading impacts just the way that I feel. But then this breathing piece, man, I like to breathe throughout the day. And I tell you what, everything that I do, talking, speaking, meetings, I find a little bit of time, just get my 10 minutes, sit in a room, get my headphones in, listen to one of those things, and man, it's a reset. And so the second piece that I'll have it stack on top of this here pretty soon is my wind down routine before I pick the kids up. I want to sit in that parking lot in the Tahoe or the Silverado, and I want to put one of those Spotify meditations on for 10 minutes and say, okay, you're no longer FTW, Logan. You are Isabella, Ezra's dad, and Taylor's husband. So that will be the next piece that I move into the routine, but I'm feeling very good about it right now, Jay.
Outstanding. Go ahead. You were moving into the
Okay.
ones. I just wanted to make sure it was good.
Eating the frog. So eating the frog is a phrase that Brian Tracy, I think, was one that coined that. Just getting that hard thing done in the mornings, man. Get that one hard thing done. And, throughout the days, everything can kind of go astray, awry. But if you know what that frog is, first off, you got to identify the frog. Okay. So we've talked about that a lot. If you want to reach out to Jerome or I, we've got a nice spreadsheet that helps you identify what those tasks are. But you figure out what that hard task is, you get it done in the morning, and then you move on. Man, that's been a big piece for me this week, especially when slowing down, giving myself grace to say, hey, you got your frog eaten for the day. Everything else, try to go create some art, enjoy it. But you already ate that frog, and that's giving me that self-confidence, that belief in myself as well, which is a huge win. Business Journal article. We got featured in the Business Journal again for our first deal that we closed over in Kansas City, Kansas, not Missouri. And so that was a great free press for us. I hit the heavy hitters list. Didn't even know anybody submitted anything for me on that list. So I was in number 15 in Kansas City during COVID and purchasing over 900 apartment units in 1 year, which the article did not mention. But it was nice to be recognized and to put that out there. I mean, that was 9,000 views and 100 comments on LinkedIn. That's great. It's just really, really great to see that. And that felt really good. Team building. We implemented the theme for the week. This week, one of our employees put up the Michael Jordan commercial where he said, certain amount of times I've had the chance to hit the game-winning shot, and I've missed them most of the time. But he's the guy that takes that shot, and you got to know what failure means for you. So our theme was to fail forward this week. And that was really cool. We're doing that team building. We also implemented something for my wife called the question of the week. And it's a fun question to help get to know your employees or your people you're working with a little bit better. And our question of the week this week, I'll give you a quick example of one, was, did you ever do anything bad in high school? And did you get caught? And the responses, it was just so much fun to go out there. We celebrated the win. I implemented that as well. So we took the team out, had a great happy hour at Soul Cantina on a patio, and we talked about our fun question of the week. And it really felt like we were doing some great things in relation to team building. So that was one piece that I talked about previously that I've now implemented into the business, and I've given ownership to other people so they feel a part of that. And that's a really big piece, man. That was a really big piece. The other win was me being there for Parker in a time of need, and allowing him to know that I was there for him, and that was really, really big. And the last one happened today. It's Friday, and I got an email from my beautiful wife, and I love when she sends me these emails. But it said, the subject line said, "So proud of you," and I'm gonna get teary. One sec. A lot of emotions this week. But that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, is getting an email like that from her gives me a little bit of validation, man. And
Doing the right things, brother. And I think that's the piece, right? It's we keep saying that we're doing it for this person or that person. We want to make the family proud. We want to make mom and dad proud. And we actually achieve it and they're willing to share that with you, you can accept that you're doing the right things and you're
I'll
making the
tell
right
you what,
decisions. Are you?
didn't think I was gonna to cry on the podcast here today, guys. It's twice this week, so a lot of emotions going on in the life, but those are tears of joy. Apologize for the silence there, but we're not going to edit that out. That's going to be in there because when you get a pat on the back from the most important person in your life, that yeah, sure, all the business stuff is good, but what really got me there was all the stuff she said about my faith and in the family.
Got to be the example.
Yep. See if I can move on so I can actually start talking again here. But that was just a huge win. And I hope you guys hear that. I know you will. So, what are some of the big learnings from this week? We've talked about quite a few of them already, but I would say the first one, that time is precious. And, I was talking to an investor earlier this week about social media. And he goes, man, you're just crushing it on social media. And I said, let me make a clear distinction. I do not use social media for my own personal pleasure. And I gave him the reasons why. And the biggest thing that we started talking about was all the time that people just go back and forth, arguing about certain things. And, going to that funeral, getting that email from my wife. What are we doing as a human race? Going back at each other and just trying to judge each other all the time. It just made no sense to me. When I was there on Wednesday at the funeral, seeing the pain in people's eyes, and what's the remedy for that is to love, to accept, to be open to everything and attached to nothing. And we got to talking about a philosophical kind of thing with an investor. This always happens to me on these calls. Is when I'm doing first calls with investors, it's like, you're going to get who I am by the end of this call. And, we'll talk about real estate, sure. But, I want to get to know you as a person. We started to click, and he's a devout Protestant. I'm a devout Catholic. We started talking about that and had a great engaging conversation. And I just wish that more people would have that thread, use social media in the way to connect and to accept and enjoy other people, instead of what I see a lot of times, which is, just politically charged comments that are so polarizing and everybody is right, And so that just got me thinking about how precious time is and how important it is to remember what you use your time for is going to define you, who you are, and how you use that time. So that was a huge learning for me. I studied a lot about marginal decision making this week. Decisions are really made around the edges, and what that means from a marginal benefit standpoint. I put some posts out this week. They weren't really received very well because I don't know if I communicated them well, but I'm testing stuff, guys. I took a theory out of one of the books that I read, and I wanted to try to say, hey, why do we as a group of individuals value a diamond more than water? It's an old question that's been asked through the ages. And it's all about the subjective theory of value and about marginal decision making. And so that was just interesting to me. Becoming a better thinker is a big focus for me right now. And we've talked about mental models, and these are a part of this piece. But when something comes into my world, I want to figure out how to think about that first. Let me get a mental model to think about that. Then I can start to attack that question the right way. And I used to have, and I'm, spending a lot of time on Investopedia, looking at words that I don't know what are, but I'm learning. I could feel myself becoming smarter. And I know I texted that to you this week. But, one of the things that really stood out to me was invert, always invert. And I was like, what does that mean? Well, let Charlie Munger put it the best way possible. If you want to solve India's problems, think about inverting that. So if you were to do this, Meaning, if you were to invert it, that question, it would say, okay, well, what could you do that would crush India, right? And then you go solve for those things. That's actually how you help them. So, I mean, that was just an example, but it's always inverting these challenges. We had some interesting opportunities that we had to think through as a company this week, and we inverted that problem. It's just a good way to look at challenges. It's the same way in your life when you're trying to figure out how to create habits, how to make more money, how to be more productive. Well, invert it. How could you make less money? How could you be less productive? And then stop doing those things, right? Another mental model is Richard Koch says, hey, there's 4 ways to really, become better or do more in this life. And you have to figure out things that you need to do more of, less of, start doing, and stop doing. It's that simple, guys. That's an easy mental model to really go through this. And it reminds me of the red light, yellow light, green light. What do I need to start, continue, or stop? It's just an easy way to think about what you can, do to kind of move yourself very, very quickly to the next level. This is a big learning too. I wanted to pass on. So Jerome knows I've mentioned this guy's name. I actually emailed him, and I don't think we'll work together this year, but I might work with him, in the future at some point. But Mark's Acosta Rubio, the content he's put out, I've digested just about almost all of them now. And one thing that he asks is, instead of asking, what did you get out of that book? What did you get out of that podcast? Ask this question. What did that book get from you? What did that podcast get from you? And that takes a minute to think about, but what he means is, after you digest that, what did you go do? What did it get from you? What actions did you take from that? And I hope listening to the Compression podcast, you walk away every single week saying, this is what I got from, or this is what this podcast got from me this week. And I think that's a better way to think about things when you're learning and digesting content, man. It's all about understanding what to go do with the information that you get. So I loved all of those things. This week was an interesting one, obviously an emotional week on a few different fronts, but making progress on the goals, feeling like I've got a good routine in the morning that's energizing, uplifting, focused on just pushing forward, continuing to push forward, delegation, actually implementing the Mastering Your Schedule document, and then putting that into work. So an update on the journals, I've all but stopped using my high performance planner. Okay. I'm just going to say it. I've all but stopped using it. And here's why. I used it mostly as a tool for task management. I don't need it for that anymore. But what I did do was I implemented some of the questions that it asks when you set your month up into a new board on Monday that allows me to go there and take a look at what I'm focused on for the month. And so I wrote those answers down for the month. So I got some, and these are the questions. What major projects do you have? What are the major events? Got Mother's Day coming up on Sunday. I got Taylor's birthday. What are the major projects? Implementing meditation, my prayer journal, the masterclass, which I didn't even touch on, but I had to hire a new copywriter and active campaign person. I've got Taylor's birthday. Again, that's a project for me because I want to make it very special for her. What deadlines? Masterclass completed. Guess what? It's going to be done next week. What are the things that must happen this month? What are the best ways to prepare and show up as the best version of yourself? I would feel like a champion if this month I did what? So I implemented those questions into my task management and productivity system on Monday, and I'll start utilizing it on there. But I also have an idea of how to create a all-encompassing journal for us, as compressors. 7 years of using journals on what we need to do. And that's an idea that's going to continue to be cultivated, to prosper, but it has to get out of here first. And I'm still out there testing what's going to work on, but I'm all but not using that high performance planner because you know what? I found that I was just duplicating the work, and I don't need to duplicate the work. I'm already doing it in another task. And if I'm really serious about the 3 levels of delegation, directive, objective, and leadership, the way that I delegate is through Monday. And guess what, guys? Today, I saw 15 emails from my team working on items that were delegated from my task management journal, and I'm not even at the office. So the things are working. That's leverage. That's what we're talking about here. But they didn't know what was in my journal because they don't have my journal. But now they do have everything. And I'll give a prime example. I had to reschedule some chiropractor meetings or sessions or whatever, because of the funeral, and we adopted Restart, and we have our volunteering, and Crystal's working on getting those done. I didn't even know she was working on that. So just getting those $110 tasks off of my plate so I can focus on more of this, more of learning, more of bringing you guys the best things that I possibly can, has been an uplifting feeling as well. And that's how I'm applying leverage, and that's how I'm compressing time to do more in less time. Boom. Look at that. And we got the noises. How about that? All right, man. Any closing thoughts? What you got before I drop our quote from one of my favorite rappers today?
I believe death is a great equalizer, and it forces us to reflect in ways that we wouldn't normally, because we realize how finite life can be. If you aren't living intentionally, if you aren't making progress towards that dream, that goal that you put on the shelf, it's time that you do it. Mm-hmm. Because we only know that we are running out of time, and every day, every second, we're running out of that time. We can't get that back. We can't make more. And so you never know when it is going to end. You never know when it's your time. And so you better make the most of it.
Absolutely. And since we were talking about failing forward for the theme for this week, this is from another singer and actress, okay? You guys may or may not know her. I think she was on American Idol, Jennifer Hudson. I accept any challenge. And that's a great way to go out for the week. I did not know that I was going to be here shedding tears with you guys today, but I hope that everybody sees, everything that we've talked about since November. It's for a deeper reason. I hear a lot of people talking about their why and what keeps motivating you and all of this stuff. But, I get an email like that when somebody passes away like they did this week. It's a perspective shift and acknowledgement that when you are intentional about where you spend your time, it yields a lot of results. Thanks for joining another episode of the Compression Podcast, where we're raw, authentic, crying, shedding tears of joy, doing it all here as a compressor. And if any male listens to this and says, man, what a wuss, come and talk to me, because I'd like to talk to you about that a little bit. You have to understand emotional intelligence. And that was not premeditated. That came out of nowhere, thinking about my beautiful wife who stepped in there right before we started recording. And I have pictures everywhere to remind me how lucky I am every single day. So go make it count. Jerome, thanks again for being here, my man.
Signing off.
Hey, compressors, if something you heard struck you, made you feel a little bit uncomfortable, good. Head on over to compressionpodcast.com. And then you can also subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast at. If you feel inclined to, please leave us a review. It's obviously helpful. But instead, I'm going to call you out today. I'm going to call you out and make sure that you do your part, sharing this message by sharing it with one person that might need to hear what we talked about today. Be great. Nothing else pays.